Hi everyone, my name is Jeremy and this is Red Means Recording. Recently, I got a real humdinger of a DM on a bad website from somebody who claimed that the reason I wasn't included in a certain product launch of a certain groovebox was because I was, quote, being political on social media. This isn't the first time I've been told, quote, being political is a bad idea for my, quote, career, and that politics don't belong in music. I've been told to shut up and do videos about synthesizers and leave politics out of it because politics have no place in electronic music. Or something. Honestly, it's hard to tell what these people are talking about half the time. I'm motivated by a lot of things, but the number one thing I'm motivated by is righteous indignation. So I thought, hey, it's Pride Month. Being gay is political, right? I'm gay. I'm political. I play synthesizers, which means I get gay on the synthesizer, which makes them political by proxy. I wonder if anyone else has ever politically used a synthesizer. Today, we're going to go through a list of some of the most notable uses of synthesizers to make a political message, or times a band that uses synthesizers have made overt political statements. I've decided to soften the blow of this for the non-political by doing it as a fox, because I'm pretty sure there's nothing political about foxes, right? Anyways, let's begin.
In 1965, Vietnam seemed like just another foreign war, but it wasn't. It was different in many ways, and so were those who did the fighting. In World War II, the average age of the combat soldier was 26. In Vietnam, he was 19. In Vietnam, he was 19.
Paul Lewis Hardcastle is a British composer, musician, producer, songwriter, radio presenter, and multi-instrumentalist. He is best known for his song 19, which went number one in the UK singles chart in 1985. The song has a strong anti-war message, focusing on the United States' involvement in the Vietnam War and the effect it had on the soldiers who served. 19 features sampled narration, voiced by Peter Thomas, out-of-context interview dialogue, and news reports from Vietnam Requiem, the ABC television documentary about the post-traumatic stress disorder suffered by Vietnam veterans. In 2009, the song placed at 73 on VH1's 100 Greatest One-Hit Wonders of the 80s. 19 had huge international success in the charts. It went number one in the UK for 5 weeks, as well as several other countries worldwide. Hardcastle was inspired to create the song after watching Vietnam Requiem and comparing his own life at 19 to those of the soldiers featured. What struck me, he said, was how young the soldiers were. The documentary said their average age was 19. I was out having fun in pubs and clubs when I was 19, not being shoved into jungles and shot at. Back in 1989, techno legends Mad Mike Banks and Jeff Mills formed this techno collective called Underground Resistance. They wanted the raw industrial sound of early Detroit techno to reflect the harsh social, political, and economic realities facing inner-city communities after Reagan's policies. Their uncompromising music was meant to raise awareness and push for change. Underground Resistance took a firm stance against the party drug image that techno was associated with at the time. They didn't want their music reduced to just hedonistic beats. There was also a conscious rejection of the emerging superstar DJ culture. The members performed anonymously in baklavas, using just the simple "You Are" logo. This was their way of pushing back against the profiling and celebrity worship of DJs. The idea was for the music to be a communal effort, not about individual stardom. So while core figures like Gerald Mitchell, DJ Rolando, and James Stinsons of Drexciya were involved, Underground Resistance had a rotating cast of contributors behind the anonymity. The focus was solely on the message and the music itself. And just as an aside, I definitely want to dig a little bit more into Underground Resistance for this channel. Their music is wild, and I think it would be really, really cool to do some covers of it on the Mate Tracker.
It's time to live and it's time to die. It's time to live and it's time to die. It's time to live and it's time to die. It's time to live! Revolution!
Atari Teenage Riot, or ATR, is a German band formed in Berlin in 1992. Highly political, they fuse left-wing, anarchist, and anti-fascist views with punk vocals and a techno sound called digital hardcore, which is a term band member Alec Empire used as the name of his record label, Digital Hardcore Recordings. Beginning in the early 90s in Berlin, the German band's music has always been deeply connected to the collective members' staunch leftist political beliefs, and in a Germany that was so divided by the Berlin Wall. Atari Teenage Riot had much to say that earlier 80s punk bands just hadn't. Perhaps the failings that they saw in the German political scene, the perceived centrism and conformity on the left, the frightening rise of nationalism and conservatism on the right can only be adequately addressed through music. Because these movements didn't grow out of thin air, they were informed not only by the politics of the era, but by different cultural scenes and how better to combat a nationalistic, conservative culture than by creating an anarchist left-wing one. And combat it, they did. One of their very first signals, a breakbeat mass of futuristic computer noises and punk-like scream shouting, was entitled Hexjagd auf Nazis, in English, Hunting for Nazis, a clear message to the nationalists of the time. And also of today. Massive Attack is an English trip-hop collective formed in 1988 in Bristol. They released 5 albums, scored movies, and shaped the face of music permanently with their sound. Their Wikipedia has a surprisingly deep section on their activism and politics, including being anti-war, enforcing the human rights of prisoners, donating profits of a show to a Lebanese refugee camp, and, during a concert, naming those who died in anti-government protests on the screen at the back with the sentences, "Their killers are still out there and we will not forget some." Massive Attack have refused to perform in Israel since 1999, quote, as a form of non-violent pressure on Israel to end its brutal occupation of Palestine, end quote. They have described this as not an action of aggression towards the Israeli people, but, quote, towards the Israeli government and its policies, arguing that, quote, the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank have no access to the same fundamental benefits that the Israelis do, end quote. In May 2020, Massive Attack urged Israel to end the blockade of the Gaza Strip. This one's a little abstract, but I know Radiohead is a favorite amongst a lot of people, so I thought I would include this one. Radiohead is a multi-genre band from England. Throughout their 30-year career, they've released 9 studio albums and won 42 international awards for their music and videos. The lead singer, Tom York, has woven politics into his lyrics in several songs, but since this is about synthesizers, we can look at the almost completely electronic Ideoteque off of 2000's Kid A. In it, Tom ponders the end of the world through climate change and the politics that profit off of ignoring it. The lyrics are as follows. Who's in a bunker? Who's in a bunker? Women and children first. Ice age coming, let me hear both sides. Mobiles squirking, mobiles chirping, take the money and run. Take our money and run. Take our money. Matmos is an experimental electronic music duo formed in San Francisco and currently based in Baltimore. MC, Martin Schmidt, and Drew Daniel are the core members, but they frequently include other artists on their records and in their performances. Matmos is also well known for their collaboration with Icelandic singer and musician Björk, both on studio recordings and live tours. They're a gay couple, have one of the most amazing Butt magazine interviews I've ever read, and Drew's side project, The Soft Pink Truth, is one of my favorite weird electronic music pleasures. Open the door into hell's core. Since they're gay, and apparently being gay is political, we can talk about their 2006 album, The Rose Has Teeth in the Mouth of a Beast. Each song on this 10-track album is dedicated to a noble gay or lesbian person who influenced the duo. From Larry Levin to William S. Burroughs, the album contains sonic homages to the subject throughout, like in the case of Burroughs, the sound of a typewriter and a gun. Nine Inch Nails is a band that loves synthesizers. or hates them, depending on how you feel about Trent's treatment of a Yamaha DX7 during this show. Lead singer and writer Trent Reznor has never been shy about expressing anything he sets his mind to, and 2007's Year Zero was a very distinct political statement. I'm going to quote directly from this Riot Fest article, which puts it very well. In 2000, human sock puppet George W. Bush was essentially installed as president by the Supreme Court after losing the popular vote. He was re-elected in 2004, coasting on a post-9/11 wave of jingoism, racism, and xenophobia. That administration lied its way into 2 wars, encouraged the world to turn a blind eye as their military tortured detainees, and introduced the Patriot Act to further surveil citizens and quash dissent. Americans who questioned any of this faced rallying cries of freedom isn't free and a wall of country singers promising a boot up their ass. It was under these ominous shadows that Reznor developed Year Zero, Nine Inch Nails' 2007 dystopian sci-fi concept album and alternate reality game that turned 15 this year in 2002, when this article was written. The title Year Zero comes from the notion that after 15 years of traumatic terrorist attacks, the United States in 2022 would start again from scratch as a totalitarian, fundamentalist Christian theocracy. 2022 marked the first year of a new dawn. An organization called the Bureau of Morality had cracked down on civil rights and grassroots dissent, and the water is spiked with paraben, a psychoactive substance whose use is justified as an anti-bioterrorism measure, but which makes its consumers sick and docile. There's a whole lot more to the album story that I encourage you to check out for yourself, and this is one of the best Nine Inch Nails albums, I think, so definitely give it a listen if you haven't. But there's no question that Trent was making a political statement, and if Trent bringing politics into his music is wrong, I don't want to be right. Nicolas Jaar is a Chilean-American composer and recording artist based in New York. He's released 6 albums, including the politically charged Sirens in 2016. He's won the BBC Radio 1 Essential Mix of the Year award and has been nominated for many others. I'm going to quote this article from thefader.com about Sirens, this album from 2016. For at least the past few years, it has felt like the world is reaching something of a boiling point, Jaar said. Things just continue to get more and more insane. It was the rise of Donald Trump's xenophobic rhetoric that pushed Jaar to explore the political aspects of his own life on Sirens. Jaar is Chilean, and seeing a bona fide tyrant gain ground in American polls brought to mind Augusto Pinochet, Chile's brutal CIA-backed president whose 16-year tenure saw 3,200 citizens killed and tens of thousands more tortured. The album's cover art features the lyrics from the record's most overtly political track, No. Ya diemos no pero el siesta en todo, which translates to, we already said no, but the yes is in everything. The text is laid over a still from a controversial visual installation from Jaar's father, the renowned Chilean artist Alfredo Jaar, titled This Is Not America. The line is a reference to the Chilean National Plebiscite, a 1988 referendum that gave the citizenry the chance to vote yes or no to re-elect Pinochet. With the help of activists and artists, the no vote won, but as Jaar's lyrics suggest, the lingering effects of Pinochet's reign, the yes, live on. Anohni Hegarty, styled as Anohni, is an English-born singer, songwriter, and visual artist. She has presented solo work and as the lead singer of the band Anohni and the Johnstons, formerly known as Anthony and the Johnstons. Her 2016 album Hopelessness is an electropop, dance, experimental, and synth-pop album that lyrically addresses issues such as surveillance, drone warfare, capital punishment, and environmental crisis. She explained to Pitchfork that she drew influence from 80s dance music during the AIDS epidemic, stating that, quote, rage is a really fun place to dance from. Expressions of anger sublimated into something beautiful are invigorating, especially if you feel like you're telling the truth. The song Obama depicts disillusionment with the tenure of US President Barack Obama. And in the opening track Drone Bomb Me, she sings, blow me from the mountains and into the sea. Blow me from the side of the mountain. Blow my head off, explode my crystal guts, lay my purple on the grass.
On the side of the mountain, blow my head off, explode my crystal guts, lay my purple on the grass.
Belgian musicians collaborated on might be one of my favorite new albums that I missed when it came out in 2022. This quote from website Gigs in Scotland sums up why it's here on this list. Quote, cultural appropriation, misogyny and racism, social media vanity, post-colonialism and political correctness. These are not talking points that you ordinarily hear on the dance floor, but Charlotte and Bolis are ripping up the rulebook with their music. A few tracks from their amazing Topical Dancer show off how they approach politics in their lyrics.
Are you polite or political? Are you correct or cynical? Are you open-minded behind closed doors? You join forces in this holy war. Go back to your country where you belong. Go back. Siri, can you tell me where I belong?
This is a small sample of suggestions I received from people in my Discord when I asked them for suggestions on this topic about a month ago. I want to thank them for the help in researching this topic, and know that if your favorite political synthesizer artist isn't on this list, it's not because they're not important. It's because nuance doesn't really work when you're dealing with bigots, and you have to make the biggest, most irrefutable statements when making your point, or else they get really squirrely. To anyone who's watching this who makes art and is feeling marginalized or seeing the injustices of the world, never be afraid to make art about what you see and feel. Art is one of the few places that still celebrates dissidence, and artists can say things in ways that nobody else can and affect people in ways simple words and facts can't. As we celebrate Pride Month here in the US, don't forget that protest matters, your voice matters, and you shouldn't go chasing and shooting at foxes unless you're ready to get turned into a fox yourself. Don't try and tell me that doesn't make sense.
Bob and Elm Land Amphibit.